Australian Federal Police have arrested the alleged mastermind
It was a calm Friday afternoon on October 13th,
behind the underworld's unhackable phone network.
1995, in Columbia, South Carolina.
Plot crimes and coordinate the global drug trade.
The air was peaceful, and the streets buzzed with families enjoying their time. People were coming home from work, kids were out of school, and life seemed to be moving at its usual pace. Little did the Shaw family know, their peaceful day was about to be shattered. Parker Shaw, along with his wife Brenda and their granddaughter Brianna, were just returning home after picking up Brianna from school. Parker went to open the garage, but when he pressed the remote, it didn't work. Thinking it was a simple glitch, he decided to go inside the house and open it manually. But inside, 3 masked gunmen were already waiting. Among them was Christopher J. Burke, the mastermind behind the terrifying events that would follow. As soon as Parker stepped inside, he was confronted at gunpoint. His hands were quickly bound, and the intruders made it clear that they were in control. Outside, Brenda grew concerned when Parker didn't return. She stepped out to check on him, only to be met by one of the gunmen. She was forced into the house at gunpoint, carrying Brianna in her arms. Inside, Parker and his family were held captive as the criminals ransacked the house, looking for valuables. But their mission wasn't over. Jay Burke made it clear that they were not there for money alone. They had a bigger target: Amy Shaw, Parker's daughter, and a bank teller. They had been watching the Shaw family for days and knew Amy's routine well. They knew that she would return home soon. The criminals waited anxiously for Amy to arrive. Around 7:00 p.m., when Amy pulled into the driveway, something didn't feel right. The door to the house was locked, an unusual occurrence for that time of day. She stood outside for a moment, feeling uneasy, but before she could think further, Jay Burke grabbed her and yanked her inside. He quickly informed her that they had been watching her family for a while. They knew her daily routine, and now they wanted the bank's security codes. Amy, trained as a bank teller, knew that the best way to survive this situation was to stay calm. With her family's safety at stake, she cooperated, hoping to buy some time. The gang demanded the vault codes, but Amy only had one of them. She explained that the second code was held by a coworker. With this information, Jay Burke decided to take Amy to the bank. As they left, he warned her not to alert anyone, or her family would suffer. On the drive to the bank, Amy used a clever tactic to leave a clue for authorities. She pulled up to the ATM, positioning Jay Burke in front of the camera, hoping it would capture his face. She knew it might be her only chance to help catch him later. Once at the bank, Amy followed Jay Burke's orders, opening the vault and allowing him to steal nearly $86,000. The criminals had what they wanted, but they didn't leave just yet. They kept Amy's family hostage, and Jay Burke warned her to make a phone call to her parents to confirm that everything was in control. As the night wore on, Amy finally triggered an alarm. Despite the gunman's threat to her family, she managed to alert the authorities. The Richmond County Sheriff's officers responded quickly, and the Shaw family was freed, though mentally shaken from the terrifying ordeal. This was just the beginning of a long, dangerous hunt for Jay Burke, who had made it clear that he was capable of anything to escape the law. After the bank robbery on October 13, 1995, the Shaw family's nightmare had only just begun. While the authorities worked to gather evidence, Jay Burke and his accomplices quickly vanished into the shadows, and the hunt for them began. Despite the authorities' swift response, the police were only able to catch 2 of the accomplices involved in the crime. But Jay Burke proved to be elusive. After his initial arrest, he managed to escape from custody in a daring and well-planned breakout. His ability to evade capture made him one of the most wanted criminals in America. As the weeks went by, the search intensified. The FBI and local law enforcement agencies were on high alert. They had no choice but to track down Jay Burke, who had become notorious not just for his robberies, but for his cleverness and ability to stay one step ahead of the law. His escape from prison marked a new chapter in his crime spree, and authorities knew they were dealing with someone extremely dangerous. For months, Jay Burke continued his criminal activities, robbing more banks and leaving chaos in his wake. He and his associates traveled across the country, committing heists and carjackings, evading the police at every turn. Their movements were unpredictable, and every time it seemed like they had been cornered, Jay Burke would slip away again, like a ghost. In one of his more brazen acts, Jay Burke was linked to a stolen car used during one of his escapes. This vehicle, and the items found in it, led authorities to a significant breakthrough in the investigation. They uncovered evidence that could help them connect Jay Burke to the crimes, but still, he was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, and the police grew increasingly frustrated. They knew they were on the right trail, but Jay Burke's escape tactics and the help of his associates allowed him to keep evading them. The manhunt stretched across the East Coast, as Jay Burke made sure to leave as few traces as possible. His cunning was unmatched. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a tip-off came. An off-duty deputy had spotted two men who resembled the descriptions of Jay Burke's associates. After questioning them, they eventually revealed crucial details that pointed to Christopher J. Burke as the mastermind behind the robbery spree. The breakthrough came when the FBI discovered that Jay Burke's associates had given them enough information to locate him. Through interviews and evidence found at various crime scenes, they were able to track him down to a motel in Atlanta, Georgia. The FBI and local law enforcement surrounded the motel, ready to end this terrifying chapter. In the early hours of May 9, 1996, the agents moved in. Jay Burke, who had been hiding for months, was caught off guard. He was taken into custody without resistance. With his arrest, the long and dangerous pursuit of one of America's most wanted criminals had come to an end. But even in custody, Jay Burke was far from finished. The FBI knew they couldn't let their guard down yet. After months of evading authorities, Christopher J. Burke was finally caught, but his capture didn't mark the end of his criminal journey. Jay Burke's ability to escape from custody and continue his crimes made him a constant threat. On March 27, 1996, while awaiting trial in the Columbia County Detention Center, Jay Burke managed to escape again, this time with another inmate, Jerome Frierson Bay. The escape was audacious, carried out during construction work at the jail, and it sent shockwaves through the authorities. Despite extensive efforts to track him down, including roadblocks and searches, Jay Burke remained at large. The manhunt was on once again. The authorities knew they couldn't afford to let him slip through their fingers, especially after all the destruction he had caused. They scoured North Carolina and Georgia, hoping to find a lead. A breakthrough came when FBI Special Agent Doug Fender, investigating an auto theft case, stumbled upon a crucial link. A stolen vehicle tied to Jay Burke led authorities to a motel in Lumberton, North Carolina. There, they apprehended Jerome Frierson Bay, but Jay Burke was still nowhere to be found. He had vanished once again. The FBI's frustration grew as Jay Burke continued his spree, robbing more banks and carjacking victims along the way. The authorities knew they couldn't stop until he was caught, but each escape was more daring than the last. Then, a surprise tip-off came. America's Most Wanted aired an episode about Jay Burke, and a private citizen recognized him. The tip led the authorities to a minister's house in Atlanta, Georgia. On May 9, 1996, the FBI and local law enforcement surrounded the house, ready to capture the elusive fugitive. Jay Burke was taken by surprise. He was arrested without incident and found in possession of a semi-automatic pistol and a large amount of stolen money. This marked the end of his criminal spree, at least for now. But even in custody, Jay Burke remained a menace. The authorities had to take extra precautions, knowing his history of escapes. The long search and his eventual capture ended a terrifying chapter, but the repercussions of his actions were far from over.